continuing our exploration of hexatonic scales. A couple of lessons ago, I showed you how to combine D major and E minor triads to create two very cool and useful sounding hexatonic scales, right? We had the bright, joyous sounding D major hexatonic and the real dark and serious E minor hexatonic. Well, now I'd like to show you a really neat twist on that idea, one that can give you two very hauntingly beautiful and exotic sounding hexatonic scales. And that is to take, instead of D major and E minor, we're going to take D minor and E major. Check this out. So to review, instead of going D, E minor, D, E minor, D, E minor, D, right, that gives you that nice happy sounding D major hexatonic. And if you start on E minor and go, that gives you the more serious sounding E minor hexatonic, right? So now we're going to play, instead of D major, D minor, but then go to E major instead of E minor. So that's a weird little gap there. So it sounds like this. If you play these as a chord scale, harmonized up the neck on the D, G, and B strings, it sounds like this. Dark and spooky. The melody note happens to be on the top, the higher of the three strings here in the D string. So the melody note is the scale. I call that the Gypsy Miner hexatonic because it's closely related to the Gypsy Miner mode, which is the fourth mode of A harmonic minor. A harmonic minor would be if you were to start on the fourth note of A harmonic minor, 1, 2, 3, 4, make that your root, D minor chord, and you play those same notes, you get D Gypsy. It's also called Ukrainian minor, Hungarian minor. You know, people give it different names because it sounds like that region of southeastern Europe. Transylvania, Count Dracula. Right? So that's D Gypsy Minor. D Gypsy Minor hexatonic. We're going to leave out the C note. Okay, so remember, we're dealing with a 6-note scale. We're just taking these notes. So we get. So that gives you a nice open minor third interval that all the hexatonic scales I've shown so far. At one point in the scale, you have this minor third to 3-fret interval. And that's kind of cool. You know, it gives you the root, obviously, the ninth, the minor third, and then the sharp 4, kind of like Lydian. Now Lydian gives you. Well, now we're doing like a minor Lydian. So root, second, minor third, sharp 4, 5th, 6th, and then we jump up to the root. So that's kind of like a D minor 6 type of sound. Very melancholy and spooky, you know, but then when you get that. Very cool. Now the flip side of that musical coin is what I call E Phrygian Dominant hexatonic, because this is like the 5th mode of A harmonic minor. Remember, A harmonic minor. If we start on E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you play those same set of notes, you get. Right? Sounds like flamenco, or you know, a lot of metal and classical music, and of course the virtuosic playing of Yngwie Malmsteen. You know, he rips through that much better than that, but you know, you get the idea. So going back to these 6-note scales here, minor, E, D minor, E. That gives you a 6-note version of Phrygian Dominant, and I call that E Phrygian Dominant hexatonic. Yeah, that has a natural fourth. Like I said, that gives you like that Arabic or North African, Middle Eastern type of sound. It's also flamenco, classical. You know, there's so much musical interbreeding in that part of the world, right? Here's a neat thing you could do, like a rolling legato run. I'm going to go D Gypsy Miner hexatonic for a few bars, and then I'm going to switch to E Phrygian Dominant hexatonic. So we go like this. And you can loop it back. What I did was, when I transitioned from D minor at the end of bar 5, I went. So I left out a note. So if you wanted to go back and loop it, you would do that. From E, you would go. So that's a useful pattern, right? It kind of cuts across the middle area of the fretboard diagonally. And you know, you can use whatever kind of phrasing you want. I like the rolling legato in 6/8, you know, or 3/8 meter. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. To me, that sounds like soundtracks I've heard in movies. You know, I don't know, the opening to was the HBO series Rome kind of had that, you know, or 6 Feet Under. They also had that kind of sound. I think some of these film score composers use these hexatonic scales, you know, as musical resources, valuable tools to create an instant musical mood. And here's another useful fretboard path for both. It's an extended pattern for both D Gypsy Miner hexatonic and E Phrygian Dominant hexatonic. I'm basically taking the same thing I did here with this path. Notice symmetry, by the way. We have a 2 fret and then 1 fret, which is, you know, a whole step and a half step. And then we have half step and a whole step. Whole half, half whole. You can do the same thing up here. So that serves both as D Gypsy Miner hexatonic. And E Phrygian Dominant hexatonic. If you just start an E, or more importantly, you're playing it over some kind of E major chord, or just an E drone, like an E bass note. So you can do the same thing as I did earlier with this. But up here, you got more of a range. Right? Another half an octave or so. And then on E. So that's another very useful fretboard pattern. And you could do different things with it, and you could play like a. You know, do legato or make a picking thing out of it. So the symmetry, again, is there. You know, see that shape, then this shape. And it works over both D minor and E major chords. And what's kind of neat about both of these scales is that they kind of yearn to resolve back to their parent key of A minor, right? It's like you're never giving that release. You know, you're playing this. And then eventually, get that resolution to A minor.